boss fight. Thank you. There we go. Nice. Yo guys, what is up? Max here in our Elden Ring video, and today we're going over my Night Witch build setup. Now, this is a build that focuses on getting a ton of intelligence, a solid amount of faith, and a little bit of arcane in order to buff our spells up as much as possible, focusing on a few really cool damage multipliers to hit bosses and enemies really hard. With this build, I wanted to be able to just run around and kill everything without having to buff myself up a bunch, and then being able to have the possibility to kind of full buff myself up for bosses and take them down easily. With this setup, we ran through the game yesterday in just a few hours. It was crazy, yeah, I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you all enjoy the video. Let's get right into it. So the star of the show for this build is the Staff of Loss. Now, the Staff of Loss boosts invisibility sorceries, aka Night Shard and Nightcomet, by a staggering 30%. However, we are using two of them, and when we put the second one in our hand, we get another 30% damage increase. However, this damage increase is multiplicative with each other, as opposed to being additive. So instead of getting 60% damage increase, we are getting 30% more damage, and then 30% more damage again, which helps us scale our damage exponentially, and is what is part of the reason why we're able to do so much damage with this build. And just to prove that real quick, if we hit without the other in our offhand, so we're just using one Staff of Loss, that was 1,032 damage. If we then divide that by 1.3 to get our base value, that would be the damage without the Staff of Loss. We're going to get 794. And then if we multiplied that by 1.6, aka it being additive, we'd get 1270. However, if we multiply that by 1.3 and then 1.3 again, we'll get 1341, aka multiplicative damage increase. I rounded up just slightly, so we're slightly over that, but we are doing multiplicative damage increase by holding both of these staffs, which is part of the reason why this build does so much damage, but just a part of it. So if 794 is our base damage, then we use our buff rotation, which is Golden Vow. It's going to give us a 15% damage increase. Howl of Shabriri. This is going to give us another 25% damage increase. We cast Terra Magica. This is a 35% damage increase. Drink our Flask for another, I think, 20% damage increase. And then charge our Nightcomet and hit an enemy with it. We're going to hit for 5,514. Note that there are other buffs in the game that I could use. Other consumables and things like that. I just wanted a relatively simple rotation that we're not standing there for 5 minutes buffing, but we're still doing crazy damage. And my favorite thing about this build is we're using Nightcomet, which is a very fast to cast sorcery. It's not like we're like full sending or we can only fight enemies if we're fully buffed up. Basically, you can just run around and one-shot just about every enemy in the game in New Game Plus. And obviously for bosses, you can take that extra time to charge up. But the reason I like this so much is it is a very fast sorcery. It's got good tracking. It's got good range. And it basically just cheeses everything because, you know, lots of damage. We're very mobile. We do kind of take a lot of damage. A lot of the buffs that we're using increase the damage that we are taking. So expect to get hit very hard on this build. It's definitely more of a glass cannon, but I love the quick damage so much. Now for the more specifics of the build, we're using two Staffs of Losses, once again, for that multiplicative damage increase. Your offhand one does not need to be leveled up. We're just using it for that multiplicative damage increase. I do have two plus 25s, but that is not needed. Next up, we're using a Communion Seal. Your seal does not matter for this build as we're using body buffs. Buffs that go onto your weapon can scale with the seal that you're using for our body buffs like Golden Vow and Howl. They're flat buffs, so our seal doesn't matter, and the level of our seal doesn't really matter. I just happen to have a plus 10 Dragon Communion Seal. Next up, for our armor, you can use, if you wanted to on this setup, like stat boosting armor. I think it looks pretty terrible, so I do not use that. I prefer fashion over function in this game, and I really like this look that we got going on. We've got the black hood, the blue silver mail armor, the traveling maiden gloves, and the black knife's greaves. This gives us a like nice look for our like Nightcomet build. So that's what we're rocking there. For our talismans, I wanted to keep this build on the like lower end level. 150 for a new game plus run is like, I would say, pretty average, if not a little bit below average. So if you are going higher with this setup, you don't need to use Marika's Source Seal. This buffs us by, what is it, 20? We get 20 free points from this. So if you're going higher, you don't need this. You can replace this with something like Radagon's Icon, Old Lord's Talisman, or the Ritual Sword Talisman would all be nice fits there. And then I'm using the Godfrey's Icon, which increases the damage of our charge spells. This works for Nightcomet. We're using the Magic Scorpion Charm to increase the magic damage that we deal, and the Graven Mass Talisman to raise the potency of our sorceries. These are all kind of flex slots. There's a lot of different things that you can use based on your preference. Old Lord Talisman, Radagon Icon, and the Ritual would be the 3 main flex slots, or flex ones, that I would use. All really, really nice things. Next up, we've got our Flask. I'm using the Magic Shrouding Crack tier to boost our magic attack damage, and the Cerulean Heading tier, which eliminates our FP consumption. AKA, I can do all of these buffs without actually losing any mana or mind, which is really nice. And then lastly, our actual character stats. I've got 31 Vigor. Note that both the Magic Scorpion Charm, Marika's Source Seal, and the Howl are going to increase the damage that we take. It is very possible to get one hit on this build in New Game Plus. Most enemies that are out in the wild will not one hit you, but bosses can, because we're taking a dramatically more damage to ourselves, but we kill more bosses before they can actually hit us, which is great. We've got 45 mind, 20 endurance, not wearing any like heavy armor, don't need a ton of endurance, 12 strength, 15 dexterity, 80 intelligence is exactly where you want to be for this build, and then 33 faith. We need 33 faith in order to cast Howl, which is a 25% damage increase. So getting that 33 faith is going to be a harder part of this build, but once you get there, you get that ginormous damage increase, which is really, really nice to have. And yeah, that is kind of the setup for this build. I'm going to show some like quick things of where to get some of these items if you're interested, but yeah, that is for the most part the video. The gear for this build, a lot of it you can actually get from Celia, the town of Sorcery. If you parkour onto these rooftops, you can get the Staff of Loss. This is their main damage weapon. Then if you light the 3 torches, you can break the seal and then go through the seal. And then on your left here, you can find the Nightcomet, which is our main damage sorcery that we're going to be using. Then if you go to the Consecrated Snowfields and head up to the Albanarch Rise Tower and go to the top, you're going to get the Graven Mass Talisman, which is what we're using to buff up the potency of our sorceries. One of the nice talismans for this build. Then in the Atlas Plateau, if you go to the Golden Lineage Everjail and kill the boss in there, you can get the Godfrey's Icon. I'm pretty sure it was the one. Yep, Godfrey's Icon. Next up for the Shabiri's Howl, if you come over to this Frenzied Flame Village outskirts, climb up the tower, kill the people up here, and then open up the chest. You can get the Howl of Shabiria. This is our 25% damage increase. And if you kill these enemies that are riding the wolves in the Consecrated Snowfields, you can get all of the blue-silver armor. It's not guaranteed to get the chest piece, but that is where you get that armor. And lastly, the Terra Magicus. You're going to come to the Crystalline Woods, go through using a Stone Sword key through this little chamber, kill the crystalline enemies. If you've got big stagger damage, they're very easy. Come to the top of the tower and you'll get the Terra Magicus. And that is it for this guide. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Just a short little one for y'all. If you guys have anything that you're enjoying using in Elden Ring, or builds that you want me to try to make viable, I haven't posted an Elden Ring video in a while, so I'm looking for some inspiration for some cool builds to maybe mess around with. I will catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.